Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Anna Marie and we are here to talk about books. I would like, first of all, to introduce you to my new favorite shirt. It is Darth Vader and it's all artsy, and you're probably going to see it in a couple of videos because I'm obsessed with it. So a lot of things are going on in June and I'm excited about all of them. So today I'm going to talk about my June TBR, which includes a readathon, a couple buddy reads, just all of the things basically. And it's funny because we were just here last month and we made a list of like 15 books that I wanted to read in May. And then the end of May is here now and I've only read, what? Eight books. So you think I would learn my lesson, but I really haven't, because I have another long list of books that are, and in this long list there are, I think, 2 books that are over 1,000 pages long. Why do we do these things to ourselves? I don't know. I'll tell you when I figure it out. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is something that I'm so excited for, and that is the Make Your Myth Taker Readathon, which is hosted by A Frolic Through Fiction, so Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction, who is just perfection. So she is hosting the Make Your Myth Taker Readathon, and the way that they have set this up is so cool because you can choose a type of character to base this readathon on. So there are 4 categories of characters. So the 4 categories are Rogue, Royal Court, Sorcerer, and Warrior. Sorry, I had to look down for a second. Ashley has a great video describing all the rules and everything that goes along with this readathon, and I really suggest that you check it out even if you don't participate. It's just so cool to look at all of the prompts and the characters that she's come up with. So it was really hard to pick my character and what I wanted to do for the Myth Taker Readathon because they're all so great and the prompts are so creative. But after looking at all of them, I landed on Mercenary. So I'm going to go all 4 prompts Mercenary. I thought about switching it out, but I actually really like all 4 prompts for the Mercenary character. So that's what I went for. I love the idea of someone who is motivated just by money and will do anything despite the ethical dilemmas that might arise from that, but maybe eventually reforming and having that redemption arc after being a mercenary. I don't know, I've always been fascinated with that trope or character type. So something that I decided to do with the Make Your Myth Taker Readathon is I wanted to focus it in on a theme, and I have been really interested in any and all books that are based on Asian mythology, folklore, legend, what have you. Ever since I read The Poppy War last month, I've been really interested in reading as much as I can, you know, in the fantasy genre, sci-fi, anything that's based on any sort of Asian mythology has just been really interesting. So since I wasn't able to participate in the Asian Readathon in May, I wanted to focus in all 4 books for the Make Your Myth Taker Readathon to have an Asian mythology folklore theme. So all of these 4 books that I've chosen focus on different Asian mythologies. So I'm excited to get into the prompts for Mercenary, and I'm just going to go through all 4 of the prompts and tell you my choice for each one. And that's another thing I love about readathons like this. It's a small number of books, so you can still participate in the readathon, and then for the rest of the month you can still get to the books that you want to read, which I will show you more of those in a minute. So the first prompt for the Mercenary character is an anticipated read, which is pretty simple. I have a lot of those. So the book that I chose for my anticipated read is Dragon Pearl by Yoon Ha Lee. This is one that I've seen on a lot of different channels. Specifically, I think I first saw it on How to Train Your Gavin's channel because of course he's the king of all things middle grade, and this is a middle grade sci-fi that is based off Korean mythology, and it is also part of the Rick Riordan Presents series, which I've seen so many interesting books in that series, and I can't wait to get to more of those. But I'm going to start with Dragon Pearl, and this is, like I said, based off Korean mythology, and it's a sci-fi, and we're following a girl named Min. She's 13 years old, and she lives on a planet that she's really tired of. Like, she's ready to get off her planet and explore the world. So Min and her family come from a long line of fox spirits, and they have the power to shapeshift into basically anything they want, and they can also manipulate emotions. But in this world, fox spirits do not have the best reputation. So Min's mother forbids them from being able to use their magic. So not only is Min kind of stuck in such a mundane and repetitive life, but she can't even use the magic that she has. So what she really wants to do is follow in her brother's footsteps and join the space forces and go off and see as many planets as she can. She just wants to explore the world. So her brother has gone off and joined the space forces, and he is actually accused of leaving his post to go and search for the dragon pearl, which I think is just some sort of like long lost relic that has the power to change worlds. So Min decides that she is going to go and find him, and they're going to figure out a way together to clear his name. This is described as being a space opera, which I've not had the chance to read much of, so I'm really excited that it's both a middle grade, a sci-fi space opera, and based off Korean mythology. So I'm really excited to read this one. So the next prompt for the mercenary character is a book with a weapon on the cover. And I have a lot of these, surprisingly, but the one that I've been really wanting to get to lately is Stormdancer by J. Kristoff. I was trying to find, any Asian mythology fantasy book that I could, and I came across this series by J. Kristoff. And I think it's a trilogy, I'm pretty sure. And obviously J. Kristoff is very well known, but I have not ever seen this trilogy on BookTube. And that made me really curious. There are a lot of things that make me really excited about this series. First of all, it is blurbed by Patrick Rothfuss. I don't know if you can see that, but apparently Patrick Rothfuss enjoyed this, so I wanted to give it a try. Another thing that makes me really excited is this is actually a dystopian Japanese steampunk. Now, those three words just evoke so much excitement in me that I can't even explain to you. Okay, dystopian. I know that sometimes it is given a bad name because we have kind of worn it out, but you pair it with Japanese steampunk and that's all I need to hear. That's it. If you aren't really sure, steampunk is basically a fantasy setting that is based on the Industrial Revolution, and everything, all the technology is run off steam. But it sounds like in this world we have a society that the main character lives in, and it is more anti-technology. And then this new society that is made up of machine worshippers called the Lotus Guild starts to kind of come in and take over. So it sounds like the main character in this book and her father are hunters for their empire, and they are chosen to go on this hunt to find a legendary griffin, which might be difficult for them because, as far as they know, this species has been extinct for a very long time. So they are hunting for a griffin that they don't really think exists, and the main character, Yukiko, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm probably not, but she finds herself stranded and alone with the griffin that they were searching for. And it sounds like this pair, Yukiko and the griffin, go from hating each other to having to form some kind of alliance and friendship to figure out how to find their way home, which I love anything that has an animal companion, and that whole hate to friendship trope is one of my favorites as well. So I'm actually really excited to get into this, and I'm surprised I haven't seen more about this on BookTube. So there probably is a reason for that, but I'm excited to get into it. So the next prompt for the mercenary is to pick a book featuring a magic battle. It took me a while to find one because I had specific books that I wanted to fit this, but I wasn't sure, so I went to Twitter and asked. And the one that I picked was Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Look how pretty it is. I love it. I've been intimidated by this book for a while, but I've also just really wanted to pick it up and see what all the buzz is about. Like, I'm really excited. I've heard such good things about this book. So I only know a couple of things about this book. It sounds like we have two empires, one in the east and in the west, and one empire worships dragons and they have dragon riders, and it sounds like the queen of this empire has been training to be a dragon rider for quite some time. And then the other empire is afraid of dragons, and they have this fear that dragons are just going to destroy them completely. It sounds like the queen from that kingdom is being pressured to conceive an heir, a daughter that will kind of save the day, but she is also being hunted, and a lot of people are trying to kill her, so that's difficult. I'm really excited for this. I want to annotate it as I go, and one of my favorite things about this book is that it's a floppy paperback. And it's really hard. It feels like it's really hard for the spine to break. That's just one thing about me that I just It's a little annoying, but I hate when you break the spine of paperbacks. It's weird, but I'm super excited to get to this one. So the last prompt is actually one of the main reasons that I chose to be a mercenary for this readathon, and that is because the prompt asks you to find a book that is inspired by history, and I knew immediately what book I needed to read for that, and that is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. This is the second in a trilogy based on Chinese history. It is a fantasy, but it's based on real events. The first in the series is The Poppy War, and I read this in April, and I was going to try and get to The Dragon Republic in May, but for some reason I just wasn't having the best reading month. I was kind of in a slump and just wanting to pick up some small books. And I was also reading The Way of Kings, which is 1,000 pages, and I was just really focusing in on that. So this month I'm excited to pick up The Dragon Republic, and it fits perfectly with this prompt. So I can't really tell you a lot about this because, well, first of all, I don't know that much about it and I don't want to. But I can tell you a little bit about the Poppy War. So like I said, the Poppy War is based off Chinese history, and in the Poppy War we have the Nikata Empire, which is made up of several different provinces, and our main character Rin is from the Rooster province, which is in the south, and Rin is actually an orphan who is in the care of just a terrible couple who are actually illegally selling opium, and Rin is kind of working for them more than being taken care of by them. She kind of takes care of herself, and she is about to be faced with an arranged marriage to someone that's going to benefit her foster parents in their trade. So this idea scares her more than anything in the world, to be trapped in and forced to do what she doesn't want to do. So in this country, they have a test called the Keju, which is actually similar to a test that they have in China, and it kind of determines what you do education-wise, like, are you going to go to this college? What level are you going to be able to reach? And it's a very competitive test. It's not a lot like our ACT and SAT that we have here in the States. But one similarity is that the test caters to the wealthy. So the wealthy are able to hire tutors and people that will help their child do better on the test. Therefore, they will, get to a higher level in society because of their education. So Rin decides that she wants to be able to take this test and go off to college rather than be stuck in this arranged marriage. So for 2 years, she literally reads everything she can get her hands on. She puts this test before eating, sleeping, everything, and she studies as hard as she can for this test. And when she takes it, she actually scores extremely high on the test, and she's able to go to one of the best military colleges in their whole entire country. But when she gets there, because her culture and her skin color and everything about her is so different from the people who normally go to this college, she's faced with a lot of bullying that leaves her feeling really alone. And the first part of the book is focused a lot on the school setting, but the second part of the book you get into this bigger war that they have going on. There is a small nation called the Federation who is occupying the Nikata Empire and trying to take over everything. So we get into that war in the second half of the Poppy War. And that's why I'm thinking the Dragon Republic is going to focus a lot more on the war and the military aspects, even though we might be facing a different foe than the Federation. I can't really get into it, obviously, because it's a sequel. But I'm really, really excited to read this. Also because The Burning God comes out in October, I think. Probably October, which is the last in this trilogy. So I can't wait to get into this. So those are the 4 books that make up the mercenary track for the Make Your Myth Taker readathon. And even though 2 of those are on the bigger side, I think I'm gonna have a lot more time since I'm done with school now. I was teaching online, but it's summer, so I think I'm gonna have a lot more time to read. I have a list of other books that I want to get to, and 2 of those are buddy reads, so I'll talk about those first. So the first buddy read that I'm doing is actually with Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction. She has just set up her Patreon, and we are doing a 1-month buddy read for the month of June. And for that buddy read, we are reading Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy. Look at this cover, it's so pretty. And I was so excited that we were doing this book because I actually just got this in the Fairy Loot box, and it has sparkly green. I don't know if you can see the sparkle, but it does sparkle. green sprayed edges. And it also has this really, really pretty art on the inside of the dust jacket. So I love when these special editions come out because they're so gorgeous. So in this book, it sounds like we are following 3 characters. First, we have Elise. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'll put the name up here so you can see it. And she is actually supposed to become the matriarch of the Bone Criers. And the Bone Criers carry the spirits of the dead into the afterlife, and they kind of protect the living from the dead. But in order to become a Bone Crier, they have to kill the one that they are destined to love, which is just harsh. So Elise is going through her rite of passage, killing the one that she is supposed to love. Our second character, Bastien, I think. Bastien, his father was killed by a Bone Crier, so he is trying to get revenge and go kill a bunch of people, probably. But he comes into contact with Elise, and it sounds like he might be the one that she's supposed to kill. I'm not sure, but we're gonna find out. And then we're also following Sabine, who is Aileen's best friend, it sounds like. And Sabine, it sounds like, is just trying to kind of help Aileen, and it's not Aileen, it's Elise. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how to pronounce that name. Sabine is just trying to help Elise as she gets into a bit of trouble with Bastien. So this sounds really interesting. I like the idea of the Bone Crier. It kind of reminds me of the Baba Yaga myth in Russian mythology, which I've read several books based on that, so I'm excited to get to this. So the second buddy read I'm doing this month is with Tasman from Tea and Books with Tasman, and she has also just set up her Patreon, and she's doing a monthly buddy read with her patrons, and for that we are doing Cersei by Madeline Miller. Look how pretty this is. I have been really wanting to read Cersei ever since really I've been on BookTube and since it's come out, because I know that it's a favorite for so many people. And you guys probably know the premise of this book. It's based on Cersei from the Odyssey by Homer, and it just kind of looks at her point of view in the Odyssey. I don't know much more than that, but I'm really excited to read this. As for a couple of books that I just really want to get to in June, this one is just a must. If anything, if this is the only book I read in the month of June, which hopefully that won't happen, but if this is the only book I read in June, it will be this one. And that is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I read The Way of Kings in May, and honestly, I can say that it is the best book I've ever read. Hopefully I'm going to do just like a dedicated review for that book, The Way of Kings specifically. And I mean, I knew Brandon Sanderson was a genius, but oh my word, I did not know, and now I do. So I am so excited to read this. So one thing that is really new to me is manga. I have never gotten into manga. I just didn't really know anybody who was into it, so I never tried it, but I wanted to give it a try, and I've seen so many people say that Full Metal Alchemist is a great place to start. So in May, I read the first in the Full Metal Alchemist series, and I got the Full Metal editions because they're just awesome. I mean, look at that. And so I think in the month of June, I can squeeze in the second and the third volumes because they're not very long, and it's very quick read. And also in June, I'm continuing on with rereads of 2 series, and the first one is the Twilight Saga, and I'm going to be reading New Moon in June. That rhymes. I'm not actually excited about this at all. I remember New Moon being my least favorite in the series when I was younger, and I already didn't have the best time reading Twilight or rereading Twilight last month, so I'm interested to see how this goes. It may or may not just be a rant review by the end of the month when I read this, so we'll see. And I don't want to do that. Like, I enjoy the Twilight series, so I don't want this to just be a hate read, but I just did not like New Moon at all. It was my least favorite, so we'll see how this goes. And I'm also doing a buddy read of the Throne of Glass series, and last month I read the first one, which is Throne of Glass, and this month I'll be reading Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I actually really enjoyed my reread of Throne of Glass, just because it's so easy to pick up on things that you didn't see the first read because you didn't know what was going to happen later. So I'm excited to read this one. This was one of the hardest in the series for me to read, not because, you know, difficulty or anything, but because a lot of really sad things happen. So I'm not looking forward to reading those things again, but this was one of my favorites in the series. I'm somewhat excited, I guess. The next couple books I may or may not get to, but because I literally can't stop myself from adding more books to my TBR, I'm just going to show them to you, and if I get around to reading them, that's awesome, and if I don't, well, they'll become my July TBR. But I finished Grey Sister in May, which is the second in the Book of the Ancestor trilogy by Mark Lawrence. So I would love to read Holy Sister in June. And I don't think it'll be that hard to do because it's not that long. It's actually the shortest in the series, which is kind of weird. That makes me nervous because usually the last one in the series is the bigger one. This is the smallest one in the series. So I don't know, but I really want to read Holy Sister if I can in June. And in May, I also read An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, so I would love to try and get to A Torch Against the Night. I have this on audio from my Libby app, and An Ember in the Ashes was really quick to get through because it's a YA fantasy and it's just like really easy to read. So I'm thinking I can get through this one in June if I listen to it on audio. It's not terribly long, but I really enjoyed the first one. It had some kind of cliche tropes that we've seen over and over, but I liked the way it was handled. And I also like that this is set in a Middle Eastern fantasy setting. So that was cool. So the next book that I would love to get to in June, if I have time, is The Beast Player by, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to butcher this name, but Nahoko Yuhashi. And this one, I have not actually seen that many people read on BookTube, but I found it on Book Outlet and it looks so awesome. I know it's based on some sort of Asian mythology. I'm not sure what region it's from or based on, but I also want to read this soon because the second one in this series is coming out. And unfortunately, I can't remember what it's called, but I'll put a picture up here and it's coming out soon, I know. So I wanted to read this month if I can. And this is based on a young girl named Elin, I think. E-L-I-N, Elin. Her family has the ability to communicate with the water beasts that kind of protect their kingdom. And one day, mysteriously, these water beasts start to die. And Elin's mother is blamed for this and she is sentenced to death. So Elin is kind of sent away from the kingdom that killed her mother, so she's far from home, and she finds that not only can she communicate with the water beasts or water serpents, but she can also communicate with these flying beasts in the air that kind of protect her queen. And it sounds like that ability is going to get her into a bit of trouble. I don't know much more than that, which is fine. I'm excited, and it's very, very short, so I feel like I could read this really quickly, and it sounds really interesting. So hopefully I'll get to this in June. So another series that I've seen all over BookTube that I really want to start is the Queen's Thief series by Megan Wallen Turner. These are pretty popular YA fantasy, and I think they're kind of on the older side of YA fantasy. I think there are 5 in the series. I have the first 4 and I haven't read them, but I want to read the first one in June, which is The Thief. So in The Thief, we are following Jin, who is basically a professional thief. He can steal anything and he brags about it. So because he brags, he ends up in the king's prison. So in exchange for his freedom, he has asked to go on a quest to search for this object that it's like this legendary object that may or may not exist. Sounds like a really interesting political fantasy, which is something I've really gotten into, is fantasies that are based on politics. And it's very, very short, as are all the books in this series, so I feel like I could fly through this. Alright, so those are all the books that I would love to get to in June, some more than others. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content from me, be sure to click subscribe and hit the like button, and I will see you guys next time.